Good evening. Security remains tight outside the Bridle Path mansion owned by Drake, one day after a shooting that sent one of his security guards to hospital.
And that security was tested today with a steady stream of people coming to see the home, something neighbors say has become a regular occurrence both before and after the shooting. CTV's Janice Golding is live tonight on the Bridle Path with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, police have yet to confirm whether or not Drake was inside the home at the time of the shooting, but I can tell you there is a large security presence here, and they actually dealt with a threat this afternoon. Take a look.
Is that necessary? Is that necessary?
Not sure. CTV.
Is that necessary?
It's CTV.
I'm asking you a question. Is it necessary?
Yes.
It really isn't.
Security was on high alert at Drake's Bridle Path home today.
Not necessary.
He's coming off Drake's property. Security guards and a swath of police surrounding and apprehending a man under the Mental Health Act following an attempted break-in at the grounds. A multi-million-dollar mansion that's always drawn a lot of attention, never more so than now, however. The curious drawn to see exactly where a security guard was wounded in a drive-by shooting.
It feels very surreal. I mean, we're here as tourists, and we just came to see Drake's house, and we heard this big story.
I feel that can be very scary to Drake because it's his life and his house.
People who live and work in the area describe the increased focus on Drake's home as very alarming.
It's quite devastating, really. You know, we haven't really seen this much of excitement, that's what I call it.
It's scary because this area is, it's exclusive.
Especially as speculation abounds as to what precipitated the 2 a.m. shooting that sent a security guard standing outside Drake's front gates to hospital with life-threatening injuries.
It's really sad. The security guards are so amazing.
Natasha works next door and says she's angry about what happened.
Because they're sitting ducks. There's no anywhere for them to go, you know what I mean? Like they're just out in the open. I mean, there's a place up here and they have a security guard house.
Police have not provided a motive, but this comes as a decade-old feud between Drake and fellow artist Kendrick Lamar hit fever pitch.
Could've left the kids out of this, don't blame me.
A beef that exploded over the weekend when each released songs flinging allegations and insults at each other.
Between Lamar and Drake, there's millions of followers on a number of social media platforms. So they're going to be going through all of that to see if there were any threats leveled in the last 72 hours or so.
And while investigators work behind the scenes, private security and uniformed police are protecting the scene on the ground. Now, Toronto police say there are a lot of security cameras in the area, so they're busy pouring through footage. They haven't released any video yet, nor any images, however, of the suspect vehicle. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
All right, thank you, Janice. Toronto police have confirmed the identity of a man shot and killed early yesterday. 31-year-old Trevor John was shot just after 1 yesterday morning. Police say he was one of 2 victims shot near Winona Drive and Vaughan Road. The other, a woman, was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the suspect in the shooting left in a vehicle, but they have not provided a description of either the suspect or the vehicle.
He was just 3 months old, brand new to this world.
His life suddenly cut short, a victim of last week's tragic wrong-way crash on the 401. As CTV's Raheem Ladani reports, today, loved ones said goodbye.
Filled with heartbreak, loved ones arrived at this funeral home in Markham to pay their final respects to Aditya Vivan, the 3-month-old baby whose life was taken last week. Vivan and his grandparents were all killed, part of a 6-vehicle collision after police pursued a suspect driving the wrong way on Highway 401 in Whitby following an alleged liquor store robbery. With Vivan's parents too grief-stricken to speak publicly, his Aunt Brenda delivered the eulogy, saying it feels like just yesterday that Goko called us and said that his baby boy is here, our family's darling. Aditya was born on January 24th of this year. He would let his mom know that he wants her by cooing. He would put his feet on his father's chest when snuggling. On Monday, Gokunath Manivanan's parents were cremated. Recently retired, they had arrived from India just 2 days before the crash, eager to spend quality time with their grandson. In her eulogy, Aunt Brenda said, "There are going to be days when we are going to look for them in the corners of our home. There are going to be nights when we are going to be hearing for their laughter, just praying we get a glimpse of the 3 of them. It is in those days we have to remember the 3 of them are together. that their spirit lives with us. Both of Aditya's parents were also in the vehicle at the time of the crash and have undergone multiple surgeries for their own injuries. Meanwhile, the Special Investigations Unit continues its review of the incident. Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
Students at the U of T Encampment protest say school officials aren't listening to their demands and are instead focused on the logistics of the protest, a protest they say they have no plans to disband. A live report from campus is coming up. But first, a live look outside, where it has been both unsettled and gorgeous at times today. The view of our city skyline this hour showing some sun and some clouds in the mix. Jessica Smith is here with the current conditions. Are we through with the rain?
Not entirely, but we are getting at least a break as we head in towards the early part of our evening. So if you wanted to get out for a walk tonight, it will be beautiful, albeit a little breezy. The bulk of that shower activity we saw kind of pop up this afternoon has pushed its way a little further east, so kind of settling from Peterborough out through Kingston and in towards Ottawa as we get in towards the end of the day. Still quite a bit breezy, though. Winds right now out of the kind of southwest, and we're looking at those gusts just under 60 kilometers an hour. As we head in towards the rest of our evening, it's not terrible outside. We're still quite mild, and through the island and Pearson, we're still seeing a little bit of sunshine out there, so a beautiful end to the day, and the temperature tonight pretty close to seasonal. Coming up, a full look at your long-range forecast, including the end of the week and the unsettled weather as it continues. But right now, back over to Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Still ahead on CTV News at 6, they're getting set for Game 1. PWHL Toronto is about to hit the ice for their first ever playoff game. Sean Leathong will be live with the latest from players and fans.
Police call the results of a 10-day investigation into online child exploitation staggering.
More than 60 people arrested, more than 300 charges laid. CTV's Mike Walker is live tonight with more details. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, provincial police say they launched this investigation mostly due to complaints received from online and social media platforms. Of those more than 60 suspects arrested, they range in age from teenagers to senior citizens. The OPP called the results of investigations into online child exploitation staggering. Dozens of people from across the province arrested for making, accessing, and distributing child sexual abuse material.
These dangers are not confined to the shadowy corners of the internet. Predators go where children go.
The investigation, dubbed Project Aquatic, was a response to complaints from online and social media platforms. 129 investigations were conducted over 10 days in February and involved 27 police forces. Some of the accused are facing child luring charges.
A person wanted to meet with a child in real life for sexual purpose. So online investigators had engaged with this person and then arranged to meet that person in real life. They show up thinking that they were going to meet with a child.
In total, police identified 34 victims. 30 children were safeguarded.
When we do a search warrant and we find children in a situation where the offender has access to them, those are children that we definitely want to safeguard. We want to get them out of a situation where they could be victimized by an offender.
64 people between the ages of 16 and 89 were arrested. They are facing a combined 348 charges. 26-year-old Tyler Pennells is among more than a dozen people arrested by Toronto police. An education assistant with the Toronto Catholic District School Board, he's facing child luring charges. The OPP commissioner says the results of this province-wide investigation are just the tip of the iceberg.
The targeting of these victims has been enhanced through the introduction of AI technology. There's very little on the internet that regulates perpetrators who are looking for victims. They have the ability to identify and groom potential victims.
Investigators also seized more than 600 digital devices. The Canadian Centre for Child Protection says its tip line receives as many as 3,000 complaints every month.
These online communities share child sexual abuse material, encourage one another to share tactics that include how-to manuals,
calling for more actions from government and technology companies, plus regulatory changes.
Upload prevention, expedited removal of child sexual abuse material, and proper moderation and training, among others, are equally critical elements in the fight against online exploitation.
Now, as part of this investigation, Toronto police tell us they arrested and charged 13 people and laid a combined 69 charges. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. The encampment protest at the University of Toronto continues, with protesters saying they have concerns over the school's willingness to negotiate.
But school officials say they're worried about issues of safety and security within the encampment zone. CTV's John Musselman is live tonight on campus with the latest. John.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, there's a rally going on right now in the encampment. We were in there for a short period today. The students and the protesters, all the demonstrators say they're not going anywhere. It's been almost a week since pro-Palestinian demonstrators set up this encampment at King's College Circle. Students here claim the university is ignoring their demands to disclose its ties with the Israeli government and divest from Israeli companies. They vow to remain here as long as it takes.
Our ultimate goal is to urge U of T to be a leader in divesting from the oppression of Palestinians. We want this institution to listen to us, to acknowledge the gravity of the situation at hand, and to take meaningful steps toward justice.
Thus far, the administration has not engaged in any conversations regarding our demands. In the case the University of Toronto is unclear, we would like to remind them, this is a protest. We are no longer interested in conversations, we are demanding commitments.
The encampment is fenced off. Students and staff not involved in the protest have access to buildings on campus. Still, the university has serious concerns about safety. In a statement released today, university officials say they have witnessed large piles of firewood inside the fenced-off encampment area, blocked or reinforced entrance points which are needed to provide a safe exit in case of an emergency, hateful messages and speech, and a significant population density within the area, non-U of T community members entering and leaving and or staying in the encampment overnight. There's also concern being expressed by Jewish students who say they feel threatened and intimidated by what's happening.
And they've had enough. They want to stand up and have their voice heard and really have an opportunity to show the campus community and the broader community that Jewish students deserve to go to school free from harassment and intimidation.
Deb Cowan is professor at the university. She's also a member of the Jewish Faculty Network. She disputes the safety issue, and she says Jewish students have visited the encampment and they are welcome here.
In fact, last week we had a beautiful Shabbat service just over here behind me.
Still, Jewish students and staff on campus say they're holding a peaceful rally tonight, a block away from the encampment. They're calling it a rally against hate and a safe place for Jewish students and their allies. And that rally is happening at this hour, and I'm told by organizers they will be staying clear of this encampment, and they were advised by that by Toronto Police. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
John. In emotional and raw testimony, a Toronto Police Superintendent facing discipline apologized for helping constables cheat on a promotional exam.
But as John Woodward reports, the hearing also delved into how unfair the hiring process was to black candidates to begin with, and how a plan to fix it was canceled without warning.
The first part of Superintendent Stacey Clark's testimony was an apology for giving 6 constables questions in advance of a promotional exam. She told the hearing it was tremendously important for me to take responsibility for what I had done. I know it was not the right path. But the tribunal spent much more time on what Clark called the why, and it came down to a systemic failure to promote black officers.
They often benefited white men within the service. There was nepotism, there was favoritism, and all types of other issues. It's common practice that senior officers have subordinate officers whom they mentor and therefore share interview questions with.
The proposed solution that Clark supported and was adopted by Toronto's Police Service Board in 2021, a new procedure that involved providing the questions in advance to everyone.
It was based on feedback from 500 Toronto police officers.
The Toronto Police Service Board oversees the police, but the tribunal heard even though the board approved the plan, the police service didn't put it into practice. In a report, Professor Wendell Agite wrote before its implementation, the TPS made an executive decision without warning to suspend the new process and revert to the original unfair practice that the members identified in the external review. It stands to reason that had the TPS implemented the new promotional process, Superintendent Clark would not have felt the desperate need to flatten the playing field by providing black officers with the interview questions. It's not clear why the policy was never adopted.
Somebody along the way decided that they weren't going to implement all of it.
Supporters who arrived on a bus stood by Clark.
I think instead of demoting her, they should give her a award.
Clark became emotional as she described demeaning posts from retired officers and one threat and how it affected her children. But she said she remained loyal to the TPS and hopeful for systemic change, saying, "I love my job. I love what I do. Some may say foolishly, but I still believe we can do what we say we are going to do. The decision whether she'll have the rank to be in a position to help will be up to the tribunal." John Woodward, CTV News.
The House of Commons Justice Committee is set to begin a study tomorrow on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia on and off university campuses.
Most Canadians are good. Most Canadians care. And they need to hear these stories. They need to understand what is happening so that they can push back against the university administration, push back against post-secondary affairs ministers at the provincial level, push back against local police who are maybe not exercising their functions.
Pro-Palestinian encampment organizers say they reject anti-Semitism, but this comes as a new poll suggests nearly half of Canadians are opposed to their presence on university campuses. Just 31% of respondents in the Leger survey say they support the protests, while a third of people polled say the encampments should come down if protesters voice anti-Semitic views or hate speech. Support for the protests is strongest among respondents under the age of 35.
Federal public service unions are ready to make their voices heard as they push back against plans to increase in-person work attendance.
The Trudeau Liberal government better prepare itself for a summer of discontent.
Many federal civil servants will be required to be in the office 3 days a week starting in September, up from the current 2 or 3 days. The Public Service Alliance of Canada says it wasn't consulted on the switch and launched legal challenges while encouraging members to file tens of thousands of grievances. Treasury Board Secretary Anita Hanand says a hybrid work model will still exist, but it's Ottawa's prerogative to update it. The judge-only trial for a man who killed 4 women in Winnipeg got underway today. The Crown told the court that Jeremy Skibicki staked out homeless shelters and targeted vulnerable Indigenous victims. The 37-year-old has admitted to slaying Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and a 4th unidentified person, also known as Buffalo Woman. The defense is arguing Skibicki should be found not criminally responsible because of a mental disorder, but the prosecution alleges he acted out of hatred.
As Donald Trump's so-called hush money trial continues in New York, election subversion charges against him in Georgia are facing a new legal roadblock. An appeals court in that state has agreed to review a decision allowing the prosecutor to keep serving. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis has been accused of a conflict of interest amid allegations of a relationship she had with fellow prosecutor Nathan Wade. The higher court's action means Trump's trial is less likely to happen before this fall's presidential rematch.
Another high-profile university encampment south of the border has been cleared by police.
In total, there were 6 dispersal announcements before our officers took action. Many complied and left the encampment area. Those who did not comply were arrested.
33 people were taken into custody early today at George Washington University in the U.S. Capitol. D.C. police said officers moved in to disperse demonstrators because of a gradual escalation in the volatility of the pro-Palestinian protest. Let's turn now to the latest on the ground in the Middle East and hope for a potential ceasefire and hostage exchange deal.
While Israel and Hamas continue fighting, U.S. officials say a revised proposal could break the impasse at negotiations that resumed in Cairo today. This comes as the Israeli military releases new video from the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Earlier this week, its forces seized the border crossing into Egypt. Israel has threatened a broader assault on the area to defeat thousands of Hamas fighters it claims are holed up there. The U.S. and other countries have urged Israeli leaders not to move ahead with those plans, citing the potential for even more civilian casualties in Gaza.
As we have assessed the situation, we paused one shipment of high payload munitions, and again, I think we've also been very clear about the steps that we'd like to see Israel take to account for and take care of those civilians before major combat takes place.
U.S. officials also indicated it was up to Israel to ensure aid can once again flow through the Rafah crossing, now that it's controlling the area. Israel said its Kerem Shalom crossing has reopened after closing over the weekend when a Hamas rocket attack killed 4 Israeli soldiers.
No love lost today between London and Moscow. The UK government is taking diplomatic steps against Russia amid allegations of espionage and other clandestine activities.
Our response will be resolute and firm. Our message to Russia is clear. Stop this illegal war. Withdraw your troops from Ukraine. Cease this malign activity.
The UK said it's expelling Russia's defense attaché, calling him an undeclared military intelligence officer. It also withdrew diplomatic status from several Russian-owned properties, which it claims were used for spying. Russia accused Britain of outright lies.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today addressed troops at a ceremony marking the anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe. He led a moment of silence and also made reference to an overnight barrage by Russian forces on a wide area of the country. More than 50 cruise missiles and explosive drones were launched at Ukraine's power grid in what Zelensky called a massive attack.
King Charles won't have time to see Prince Harry during his visit to the UK, according to a spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex. Harry is back home for events celebrating 10 years of the Invictus Games, which he founded. That schedule included a Thanksgiving service today. The King's youngest son has rarely returned to Britain since he and his wife Meghan Markle stepped away from their royal duties in 2020. He most recently visited in February following the King's cancer diagnosis.
And Harry's brother, Prince William, has a new title. The King appointed his older son as Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps. The Prince of Wales' new appointment puts him in charge of Harry's former unit. William officially takes over the role with the ceremony on May 13th.
It's often said April showers bring May flowers, but climate scientists are concerned about just how hot the planet was last month. The European Union's Climate Change Service says last month was the hottest April on record, with air temperatures averaging above 15 degrees Celsius. That extends a nearly year-long run of a new high set each month. Experts link the increase to fossil fuels, creating greenhouse gas emissions, as well as the El Niño phenomenon.
A scary scene at an airport in Istanbul today as a FedEx Airlines cargo plane was forced to make an emergency landing after its front landing gear failed to deploy. Now take a look at this footage. It was captured the moments the plane from Paris skidded along the runway before the crew was able to bring it to a safe stop. Emergency crews then doused the plane with foam. No casualties were reported, and the aircraft involved was a nearly 10-year-old Boeing 767 cargo freighter. Investigations are underway.
A historic season for PWHL Toronto goes to the next level tonight as the team kicks off their playoff run against Minnesota.
Players and fans hoping the Toronto team can take it all the way to the Walter Cup. CTV Sean Lethong is live tonight at Coca-Cola Coliseum as the team gets ready to hit the ice. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, it's really a celebration of the league's success thus far as we see the fans streaming into Coca-Cola Coliseum behind us. And as you may know, this is a serious upgrade for the team who played their regular season games at the Mattamy Center with a capacity of 2,500 seats. Here at Coca-Cola, it's up to 8,000. And I checked a little while ago. They're saying it's only standing room tickets that are available for Game 1 of this best-of-5 series. Now, the players were on the ice today, warming up, getting used to their new home as they prepare for the playoffs. Now, it's a bit of an interesting format with the players for Toronto having finished first overall in the PWHL, actually getting to select their opponent in the first round. They're able to select between the third and fourth place team. They chose fourth place Minnesota. So on one hand, you get sort of the advantage as the first place team to be able to pick your opponent in hopes that you would have an easier road. But also for Minnesota, this obviously provides some bulletin board material to say that this team chose you. This team thinks that they're going to beat you in this best-of-5 series. But as the day has come on here, many fans have been showing up early, talking about what this means to them, how well the league has done. A little while ago, I spoke to many fans. Here's what they had to say.
For me, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, I grew up in a time where women didn't get this opportunity, so it's pretty special. And then to get to share it with my daughters is pretty remarkable.
You see, with tickets being sold out, there's an interest in the game, and people are watching it. I think the reviews on TV have been fantastic. People are watching the game. People are interested. It's been exciting hockey.
Please remind the men that the women are so much better.
So many of the players were saying that they were actually saddened that the Toronto Maple Leafs didn't make it to the second round of the playoffs, but there is a silver lining that the PWHL is taking all the spotlight for playoff hockey in the city. They're hoping the fans will turn out, and what I'm seeing so far, they certainly are. 8,000 seat capacity inside Coca-Cola Coliseum. Looks like it's going to be full. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. And coming up, troubled talks with the province over how doctors should be compensated. Both sides with very different views on the shortage of physicians. A checkup on the matter still ahead.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, now that spring has arrived, some homeowners are paving their driveways. But be careful if you get a knock on the door from pavers who happen to be in the neighborhood. One family isn't happy with the paving job they got. All of that story just ahead.
After an unsettled day, we're making our way into a really beautiful evening. So if you wanted to get out for a walk tonight, it will be fantastic. The winds are still a little breezy as we approach 7 p.m., but later into the evening, they do become considerably lighter, making for a beautiful and very seasonal night. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we break down the end of the week and the weekend. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Now that warm weather has arrived, you may have a project for your home, such as renovations, landscaping, or perhaps a new driveway.
With inflation, the cost of many jobs has gone up, including driveways. So watch out for pavers going door to door, promising a great deal. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. We get complaints about paving companies every year. And while there are some doing great work, it's an industry that has some bad operators. They may do a job fast, poorly, and then be hard to locate. And in some cases, leave a big mess behind. How do you feel about this big mess on your lawn?
I'm disgusted with it. I just finished prepping my lawn with fertilizer and seed and everything, and now they've destroyed it again.
2 weeks ago, Steve Park of Markham got a knock on his door from a paving company that said it was working in the neighborhood and could offer him a great deal. Park had been quoted $7,000 to pave his driveway, but the company said it could do it for half that the next day.
I think I was just played by them. They knew what to say, how to say it, and a handshake used to mean something, but it doesn't seem to anymore.
Along with the huge pile of asphalt and other debris on Park's lawn, the driveway is uneven with high and low spots.
We had rains the other day, and this was all pooled.
Asphalt is splattered on his stonework, and the company paved over his water main, so the driveway had to be ripped up again to find it.
The patchwork that they did when they cut open trying to find the water main, they didn't have a locator, so they were guessing.
When he tried to call the pavers, there was no response.
I've contacted them, left messages, emails. They haven't gotten back to me, so I'm stuck with the cleanup of this, I guess.
When he researched the company, he found they were using a similar sounding name to reputable paving companies working in Toronto and New Jersey.
I felt good when I saw a 15-year warranty, but I think it was more like 15 minutes.
We did several stories last year with homeowners who were also left with subpar jobs and a mess on their property.
Picking that up, and they said, yep, we're picking that up. We're going to do that later tonight, and we haven't seen them since.
When choosing a driveway paving company, get 3 estimates, have a written contract, inspect prior paving jobs, ask friends and family for recommendations, and never pay in advance. Park now has to get rid of the rubble left on his lawn and says next time he'd rather pay a higher price and get a better job.
You pay more, but you've always got coverage, right?
And you should also watch out for companies going door to door saying they'll be in your area soon and they're collecting deposits for paving jobs. There are cases where after they get the money, they don't come back. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, today was a little bit different weather-wise. We had sunny skies and we had some rain. Now this.
I know, the skyline has changed just this hour. We had bright sunshine to start the show. We got a whole bunch of rain last night. It woke some folks up. But it wasn't a washout day because there were beautiful moments.
We're having these kind of windows of brilliance and windows of sunshine, and then that rain comes in and kind of literally rains on the parade. But the good news is it's not a wash as we head throughout the rest of the week. So I know a lot of folks obviously heading into this weekend, a busy one with Mother's Day taking place. So just keep the umbrella handy, but you won't need it the entire time. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. We've seen the cloud come and go and come and go, and a little bit of rain this afternoon, but the wind really has been the biggest issue as we've made our way throughout the day today. Still breezy as we kind of get into the second half of our day, and then things dissipate as we head in towards the overnight. Temperature-wise, we're still comfortable, sitting at 16 now here in the city, 25 through Windsor, 10 out in Ottawa, and up towards Sault Ste. Marie, Thunder Bay, both sitting at 15. A very seasonal night ahead of us. We see some of that cloud cover linger as we head through the overnight, so not a clear evening ahead of us, but with some of it kind of breaking apart, we do see a little bit of that warmth released, and we get a much more seasonal evening ahead of us. Into the day tomorrow, we are shy of the seasonal mark, and this begins a little bit of a cooling trend. We'll be at 15, we should be at 18. It's not drastic, but every degree counts as we get into this kind of T-shirt time of year. As we head in towards the rest of our evening, the bulk of that rain that we saw push through this afternoon makes its way out into the day tomorrow. Yet another system comes through, but it sits just south of us. So this becomes an issue if you're traveling out of the city. For us here in the GTA, it falls more as just some cloud cover. Through the rest of our evening, though, beautiful. The cloud cover we have out there right now clears out, and we see a really beautiful evening as we head into the early morning hours. Into the day tomorrow, a sunny start, and then the cloud cover comes in. So this is where we see the shower activity begin down towards Windsor, London, Hamilton, Niagara from 3:30 to about 9. For us, it's really just becoming a cloudy afternoon. So we stay clear of the rain, but because it's in the vicinity, because we have the right amount of instability in the atmosphere, the chance of showers is going to be there. So we're looking at this likely just being a dry day for us tomorrow. Into our Friday, different story through the morning and into the afternoon. Very scattered showers in nature, and then this kind of trickles into our weekend. Temperature-wise, a little below seasonal tomorrow, but above for the low. And then as we get in towards the end of the week, we start to regulate just a little bit. It's not a wash. Again, we're looking at this instability holding on right through to the end of the weekend, but it will be nice enough to spend some time outside with mom or the mother figure in your life on Sunday. But then by the time we get to next week, seasonal, sunny, and really beautiful. Nathan, I'll send things back over to you.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Also tonight, European travel is getting a boost courtesy of Taylor Swift. Fans out of luck in their hunt for an affordable ticket are opting to follow the superstar overseas. Ontario's health ministry has described the recruitment and retention of doctors as not a major concern.
That comes amid ongoing arbitration with the Ontario Medical Association over how much doctors are paid. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details.
The provincial government and tens of thousands of doctors are at loggerheads over what they get paid.
Our healthcare system is in crisis, under a lot of pressure, and we need to do what it takes to get it back on track.
The two sides so far apart, an arbitrator will decide doctors' compensation for the current year. How wide is that gulf? Doctors are after a pay hike of more than 15%. The Ministry of Health thinks what's fair is about 3%. The Ontario Medical Association says their members struggle with underfunding and higher costs to run an office. But in its submission to the arbitrator, the Ministry of Health insists catch-up pay isn't needed, and there is no concern of a diminished supply of physicians.
Just want to know what planet this government's on.
We all know it's a concern. 2.2 million Ontarians know it's a concern.
The number of people without a family doctor.
It is happening. Our system is in crisis, and she's denying it.
The Minister of Health trying to soften what the government laid out for the arbitrator.
What we're saying is that Ontario physicians are a really important part of our healthcare system, and we'll continue to work with them to grow the workforce.
I was a little bit surprised to hear that statement.
The surprise from this family doctor because he knows that the number of people who don't have access to care like his is growing.
We're seeing lots of family doctors either closing their practices or changing the way that they practice medicine. They're giving up the office-based sort of comprehensive cradle-to-grave model of practicing family medicine.
The government says the number of doctors in Ontario is growing faster than our population. The number of visits down. That's the justification for keeping a lid on pay increases. But the OMA explains the kind of patients they're seeing is changing.
They're older these days. They're more complicated. They have a lot more medical needs, have a lot more medications, and the medicine, the care is more difficult.
Leading doctors to feel stretched thin.
Doctors are overworked. We want to do the care, but we want to have a system that's supporting that, and that's what patients deserve.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
This Saturday will be the annual Megan's Hug at Sick Kids Hospital, and this year a new partner with a personal experience involving a brain tumor will be joining the walk.
Health reporter Pauline Chan has the story.
Every day I'd have this pain in my head, and I finally went to the doctors about it, and when I was younger they told me it was just growing pains.
Then when Sherry Holmes was 19, a different doctor sent her for tests.
Found out that it was about a golf ball sized tumor that had to be removed, and within the 7 days of all of this I went in for surgery.
The daughter of TV star and home builder Mike Holmes came through her surgery smoothly and with a new desire to help others. So when a contact put her in touch with Denise Bebenek, it seemed like a perfect fit. Bebenek has been a fundraiser and activist for research into pediatric brain tumors since her daughter Megan died of a brain tumor in 2001. She was just 5. Megan's Hug is an annual fundraiser, and this year there's a new element.
It's the 25th anniversary for the Brain Tumor Research Centre here in Toronto. And we have started a new research fellowship in celebration of this, where we will have a first-year postdoctorate opportunity.
Love it. Actually, these are my favorite socks. I'm wearing them on Saturday.
This year's socks, with designs by young patients, including Megan, will be sold to help fund the fellowship.
The hug's coming up. This will be my first hug ever, and I couldn't be more excited.
So we are partnering with Hotel X this year in Toronto, and the gates open at 8:30. Opening ceremonies will be at 9:30, and then at 10:30 we will kick off our walk.
The group will walk 5 kilometers to the Hospital for Sick Children, where Megan was treated, and encircle the hospital with a great big hug. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca is pulling its COVID-19 vaccine globally due to low demand. The drug maker says there's a surplus of updated vaccines that target the virus's variants, and that's prompted less interest in the product. Dozens of countries had stopped using the AstraZeneca vaccine after rare blood clots were detected in a small number of people. AstraZeneca's vaccine has been one of the main COVID-19 vaccines worldwide, with more than 3 billion doses supplied since 2021.
European countries say they're seeing a massive surge in cases of whooping cough. Officials say nearly 60,000 infections have been reported across the European Union and associated countries since the start of 2023. That's about 10 times the amount identified in each of the previous 2 years. 11 deaths were reported among infants and 8 among older adults. Health experts say case numbers will fluctuate year by year, but reduced vaccination during the pandemic could have been a factor.
Nearly 3 years after a crowd crush at a Houston music festival left 10 people dead, the event's promoter says it has settled a number of lawsuits. In November of 2021, those individuals died during a concert by Travis Scott at the Astroworld Music Festival. A lawyer for Live Nation says the company has reached deals to end 9 of the 10 wrongful death suits it faced, including one that was set to go to trial this week. Terms were left confidential as thousands of injury lawsuits remain pending. Scott and Live Nation have denied allegations of negligence or a lack of concern over safety at the event.
It looks like there won't be a repeat of last year's Hollywood writers' strike on this side of the border. Members of the Writers Guild of Canada had given their negotiators a mandate to call the strike if a new independent production agreement couldn't be reached with the Canadian Media Producers Association. Their previous contract ended December 31st. The two sides now say they've agreed on a tentative 3-year deal with a ratification vote and more details to come.
If you didn't see Lady Gaga's last stadium tour or you'd like to relive the experience, she's officially set to release a concert film. HBO dropped the official trailer for Gaga Chromatica Ball, named after her 2022 tour and the 2020 album. The singer said she spent countless hours in the editing room putting together the concert special to honor her fans. It debuts May 25th.
Taylor Swift is getting ready to resume her world tour in Europe, and it looks like concert goers from this side of the Atlantic are also packing their bags.
Brand new phone.
The pop star will play 4 sold-out shows in Paris starting tomorrow. The venue there says Americans bought 20% of the tickets. Travel experts said fans are likely finding the cost of flying and staying in Europe is not too different from what they pay for resold tickets in the U.S. or Canada. Swift plays 6 shows in Toronto in November.
After the break, Air Canada is flying below expectations, according to a new customer satisfaction survey. What passengers really think and how the airline is attempting a soft landing.
Not necessary.
He's coming off Drake's property.
Updating our top stories, security remains tight outside of Drake's Bridle Path mansion, one day after a security guard was shot and seriously injured there. Today, police apprehended a man under the Mental Health Act as a steady stream of onlookers passed by throughout the day. It's something neighbors say they've been dealing with both before and after the shooting.
When we do a search warrant and we find children in a situation where the offender has access to them, those are children that we definitely want to safeguard. We want to get them out of a situation where they could be victimized.
Police announced the results of a crackdown on online child exploitation. 64 people have been arrested, more than 300 charges laid. Investigators say they managed to identify 34 young victims.
I grew up in a time where women didn't get this opportunity, so it's pretty special. And then to get to share it with my daughters is pretty remarkable.
And a big night for hockey in this country as the PWHL begins its first ever playoffs. Toronto will take on Minnesota with the puck dropping in just a few minutes' time. Montreal takes on Boston beginning tomorrow night.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
It was a rough day on the markets for a Canadian e-commerce giant. BNN Bloomberg's Amber Kanwar has more in business.
Shopify dropped nearly 19% today after warning that growth was going to slow down in the coming quarter. The Canadian e-commerce giant managed to grow sales more than 20% in the quarter they just reported, but said that growth rate might slip a little bit. They're also ramping up spending plans, and that's going to weigh on profit. Investors were unprepared for both of those developments, and the company shed $25 billion in value today alone. President Harley Finkelstein assured investors that spending on marketing efforts now was the right thing for the business, saying it would pay off within the next 18 months. Now let's check in on the closing market numbers. The Canadian dollar lost a bit of ground to below 73 cents U.S. Oil prices in the U.S. edged up to just below $80 per barrel, while Canadian oil prices lost a bit of ground to around $67 per barrel. And it was a down day on the TSX, shedding 31 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Amber Kanwar in the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
A new survey puts Air Canada below most other major North American airlines when it comes to customer satisfaction. Consumer analytics firm J.D. Power polled nearly 9,600 flyers between March 2023 and 2024. Air Canada placed 9th out of 11 peers in economy class rankings, only beating U.S. carriers Spirit Airlines and Frontier Airlines. It was dead last in the first business class and premium economy segments. WestJet was closer to the middle of the pack. Air Canada says it performs better in other customer-based rankings.
The Vancouver Canucks are set to host the Edmonton Oilers tonight for Game 1 of their second-round series in the Stanley Cup playoffs. MLAs cheered on as the Canucks flag was raised outside the BC legislature. The Canucks needed 6 games to get past Nashville in round 1. The Oilers knocked out the LA Kings in 5 games. This will mark the first playoff showdown between Edmonton and Vancouver since 1992, when the Oilers beat the Canucks in 6 games.
Just ahead, an exceptional find. A hen lays an unusually large egg with an unexpected surprise inside.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight, and a special What's Up to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
A farmer in northern Ontario got an extraordinary surprise.
I haven't eaten it yet. The first egg I'm going to give to the dog because it doesn't look like, it looks like a dog egg. It's still a nice yolk and everything, but it's a little bit cloudy.
Here's what she's talking about. Her hen laid an egg nearly 3 times the size of an average egg, and when she cracked it open, there was a second egg fully intact inside. The phenomenon has actually happened before, but it's quite rare.
I've never seen that before.
How surprising. Would you want to, I wonder how it tastes.
Right? Like, I know multiple yolks, but I didn't realize it could be an egg in an egg. It's a surprise, like the weather today. There was a lot going on. Sunshine this morning, then we had rain, and then the wind has really been kind of the kicker throughout the entire day. But the good news is, as we head throughout the evening, winds become a little lighter, the rain pushes off for now, and we have a really beautiful evening ahead of us. We're watching, though, the system push its way out. So Eastern Ontario, it's coming for you. So if that's where you're traveling this evening, keep that in mind. Temperature-wise, though, it's not terrible. Winds still a little gusty right now, but as we approach about 10 p.m., they get quite a bit lighter. We're into the mid-teens for the most part, right around the Golden Horseshoe. And as we head into the day tomorrow, the kids won't need any layers. A perfect spring day.
Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.